Hey there. How's it going? Welcome back for another ASMR video. Today we're going to be talking about a place that I'm very familiar with. And that is the state of Florida, and specifically South Beach, which is on the other side, east of Miami. So, we're going to talk about some of the history and about Florida and Miami, and how this little island that was once a sandbar has turned into an international destination. So, the waters along the Florida coast are generally warmer than other areas in the U.S. So, mostly, especially compared to the Pacific Ocean, the waters are usually a light blue with the sun, and Florida actually has about 1,100 miles of coastline. So, Florida sand consistency up north is very fine and white, and that's on the Gulf side. On the Atlantic side, the sand tends to be light beige. So, the beach that we're going to be looking at is South Beach. So, this is about it's really a strip, which is miles of fine golden sand with emerald waters. Let's jump back to the history of Florida in general for a moment here. Florida was named for the day on which it was first seen, which is April 2nd, 1513, by Ponce de Leon, who was a Spanish explorer. And they called it La Florida in honor of Pascua Florida, which is the Spanish feast of the flowers, Easter, as you may know it. So, in the early days, let's go ahead and zoom a little bit closer into Miami now, because I'd like to talk more about Florida and Miami as a whole, but I think that will be better for another video. So, in the early days, before Miami was the city that it is today, it was a riverside settlement in a native land, as a lot of the U.S. was. So more than 10,000 years pretty much passed, and Miami has attracted people to its sunny shores and the warmth of the sun. And it was named Miami by a Native American tribe who lived in the area until the 17th or 18th century. And it was called, I'm going to mispronounce this, I know it, but Miamis, which is big water. So the Miami River, which runs through the city, hosted a large Tequesta Native American settlement. Spanish missions, army forts, and of course the home of Julia Tuttle, which is one of the modern, or the mothers, as they say, of Miami. There was also the Royal Palm Hotel, and basically that was started by Henry M. Flagler, and he land from Tuttle and the Brickell family, which is actually an area in Miami today, but it's named after a family. So it was really almost a story of New York, because in the late 1800s, the Florida East Coast Railway to Miami connected it, and it started to become more what we know today, with a lot of New Yorkers going down and international travelers. So when the Spanish first arrived in 1513, there was about 350,000 Native Americans, and 250 years later, when the Tuttles and the Flaglers and the Brickell family arrived, they were virtually gone. So the Spanish really retained control over Florida for the next 300 years, from 1500s to the 1800s, and there was a brief stint of British rule in the late 18th century. The history of that entire Caribbean region in Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic is actually quite fascinating, because there was wars fought between the Spanish and the British and the Americans. So the United States took control of Florida in 1821 when the Spanish sold it to them for $5 million. I would probably take that real estate deal right now, that's for sure. So when those pioneers really started to arrive, it was really John D. Rockefeller and Flagler who extended that railroad and created Miami as a trade center along the route. So that New York story has always been a part of Miami, really, from the beginning. So that brings us to South Beach, which is actually a neighborhood in the city of Miami Beach, located east of Miami City proper. So it's really an island connected by bridges, and it's actually a different city. It has a different mayor, etc. South Beach wasn't always the vacation destination that it is known for today. It was just a remote sandbar of Miami Beach back in those days, so it looked very different. If you can close your eyes and imagine just a beach with swampland and mangroves lining the coastline, and farmland. So South Beach starts at about 1st Street and ends on 23rd, and Miami Beach runs much higher than that, but the area you think of with the Art Deco and everything really is kind of in that particular region. So South Beach again was unsettled farmland, and in 1870, 160 acres of it was purchased by the Lum Brothers, who wanted to grow coconuts. And it was the daughter of one of the two brothers that named the area South Beach. So it wasn't until 1886 that they actually built the first farmhouse. The actual first structure to be built on this beach was constructed in 1876 by the United States Life-Saving Service through an executive order issued by President Ulysses S. Grant. And that was at approximately 72nd Street. So that service really provided food, water, and a little bit of civilization for people who were shipwrecked. So the structure had fallen into disuse because actually by 1915 the United States Life-Saving Service became the U.S. Coast Guard, and then it was destroyed completely in 1926 in a hurricane and was never rebuilt. So the next step in the development of this beach, and again I'm going to focus on mostly the beach area because the city area I think is complicated and has the Art Deco dimension, and I just wanted to show you the beauties of the waters off Florida. But the next step was the planting of a coconut plantation, and that was sort of on the shores in the 1880s, and it was by New Jersey entrepreneurs. So again, it was a failed venture, but that New York story again kind of rears its head. So one of the investors in the project was John Collins, and he has a street named after him, actually. That's quite a large street in South Beach. And it runs all the way up the island, but he planted a different crop, not coconuts, but actually avocados, and it was the Lum Brothers, who I mentioned before, who left Collins the land. He discovered fresh water and expanded his parcel up to 67th Street, so it wasn't until later in 1912 that two businessmen from Miami, the Lummus Brothers, purchased 400 acres from Collins. And these brothers were the first people to have the idea of developing the island, so to more than just farmland, but also to homes. And Collins, he decided to actually build a bridge from Miami to the island because it would be needed. So with some local investors, they created a bridge in 1913. And of course, as construction often goes, Collins ran out of money before completion, and it was a gentleman later who put in an additional $50,000, and they created the Collins Bridge, which is now the Venetian Causeway. And also around this time was the opening of the restaurant Joe's StoneCrab, so that's sort of a cultural mainstay here in Miami. The Collins family members really, and the Lummus Brothers, bankers from Miami, really had that vision of a tourist destination. And before, it was really just day trips by ferry from Miami across the bay. And as they cleared the land, planted crops, supervised the construction of canals, and brought their products to market, and they also created some companies. It was the Miami Beach Improvement Company. It was really the beginning. And at first it was bathhouses and food stands and no hotel. But in 1915, Brown's Hotel opened, and it's still standing at 112 Ocean Drive. So, as I mentioned, much of the interior was sort of a tangled jungle of mangroves, so they had to deepen the channels and eliminate native growth almost everywhere in favor of landfill for development. So it was very expensive, and it was just a sandbar for a long period of time. So it was in 1915 with the hotel and all of that it really became the town of Miami Beach. That was March 26th, 1915. So the Lummus Brothers sold their property between 6th and 14th to the city, and that's one of the ways they got the name Lummus Park. I do believe there's some conflicting stories there, but that's the one that I've read. In 1920, that was really the boom of Miami Beach, and several millionaires built homes on Miami Beach. And President Warren G. Harding stayed at the Flamingo Hotel right around here, so all of a sudden it became a posh destination for traveling and vacations. In the 20s was really the beginning of the New York story as we know it today, and that was when they sort of marketed it as a site for wealthy industrialists from the North and Midwest to build winter homes. So they targeted many Northerners. So, for example, they wanted to really accommodate those wealthy tourists, so they built grand hotels like the Flamingo Hotel, the Fleetwood Hotel, the Floridian, the Nautilus, etc. The 1920s was also when they really created them by landfill and dredging of Biscayne Bay, the bulk of the island. And that's sort of when they created those man-made islands, Star, Palm, and Hibiscus Islands, which are on the other side in the bay. It was really in the 30s that the Art Deco district really exploded, and that's for another video, but it was really just continually expanding and growing. And in the 60s, that was when Jackie Gleason brought his show to the area, and that was really that rise of the drug story, I guess is the best way to describe it, because it was a base for illicit activities here in Miami, and you do see that sort of typified in the movie Scarface and the TV show Miami Vice. Back in the 80s, Miami wasn't the nicest place. Miami and South Beach was not the nicest area. And as you remember, with Miami Vice, they sort of showed rundown or empty buildings. So it was not a very nice area and had a very high rate of crime. So now, today, it is considered one of the most prosperous areas in the South Florida. So Miami Beach attracts tourists from all over, such as Canada, Europe, and the Western Hemisphere. 55% of the residents speak Spanish in Miami Beach as a first language. So it does have a very Latin feeling culture, and it's very vibrant. A lot of Spanish music, Latin music, and dancing there as well. So another unique aesthetic is the presence of several colorful and unique stands by Miami Beach's lifeguards on South Beach. So you can see them in some of the videos, but they have, each one has a unique design, and they're sort of symbols of the beach. This beach has a tropical climate, and it has a wet and dry season. So that really runs through May through October for the tropical season, and often showers and days thunderstorms are common. And then the dry season is November through April, and that has fewer showers and just really nice sunshine and low humidity. So Miami Beach is the only U.S. city to never report freezing temperatures, on the mainland at least. So it's really right in the confluence with the Gulf of Mexico. And the negative is that it does make it vulnerable to hurricanes and tropical storms. So it has really experienced a lot of direct hits from major hurricanes. And that's one of the risks, of course. So I thought I would talk about some of the other interesting facts that I didn't mention in the history of the beach here. And one of those is that 80% of loggerhead turtles lay eggs here in Miami Beach, and the surrounding areas. So you can see them come up and dig little holes for the to lay eggs, and it's a very magical thing to see. There's a lot of buried treasure pirates such as Blackbeard and Gasparilla, which is not just a celebration in Tampa, but it is the name of a pirate. And they left many treasures behind, and gold, silver have been found both on and off the land by those who have visited Miami Beach. And you can imagine, with all those English and Spanish ships, there was a lot of business in the pirate industry back then. It's the home of suntan lotion. So the inventor of suntan lotion was from Miami Beach, and they came up with it in 1944. So I think that obviously he had personal experience, because I can tell you firsthand the sun is pretty hot down here, and you can burn very easily. The average temperature during winter is about 65 to 75 degrees. Because Miami Beach is largely man-made, its beaches have to be replenished with new sand. And, of course, the diminished shoreline makes things more vulnerable to hurricanes and storms. Miami is also the diver's paradise, which is dubbed the recreational diving capital, because it has a lot of wreck sites, and because of those battles and things that I told you about. But also, the Keys nearby have a lot of dive sites, so there's a lot of blue waters to snorkel and scuba dive. As I've mentioned with New Yorkers, about 22,000 New Yorkers move to Miami each year. So if you compare that to LA or San Francisco, only 11,000 move per year to LA and 5,800 to San Francisco. So that weather is hard to pass up. And today, Miami Beach is home to over 92,000 residents. And it's sometimes called the $1 billion sandbar because of the enormous amount of money it took to construct the man-made islands. So now I just want to have you close your eyes and take a deep breath and listen to the sound of the waves, and listen as it crashes against the sand with the sun shining and beautiful blue waters sparkling in the sun. And slowly relax. Imagine you're laying on those white sands. The sound of seagulls is in the air, and you're at peace. Thank you so much for listening.